A significant winter storm is making its way across the United States, and I want to make sure you are prepared for the heavy snow and ice it is expected to bring. A quickly developing low-pressure system will gain strength as it travels from the Central Plains toward the East Coast, spreading a hazardous mixture of heavy snow and icy conditions all the way from Kansas through Maine. We are expecting a wide path of accumulating snowfall to begin in the Central Plains. This will continue all the way through New England, with many communities on track to receive 3 to 7 inches of snow. However, our biggest concern is a very defined corridor of heavy snow from the Great Lakes to the Northeast, where snowfall totals in the double digits are certainly possible. Places such as Erie, Albany, Worcester, and Concord could see over a foot of snow if the strongest bands of precipitation settle in. For most winter storms, snow is typically the primary concern, but I need to tell you that this particular winter storm is going to produce something that is far more dangerous. That is correct. We are anticipating widespread freezing rain, which will be a possibility across Arkansas, Kentucky, West Virginia, and even in the higher elevations of the Carolinas. Even a light glaze of ice can make for treacherous travel conditions. But some locations within this zone could receive 1/10 of an inch or more, which is enough to bring down tree limbs and lead to scattered power outages. So, in today's forecast, we are going to carefully break down exactly what you need to know about this approaching nor'easter that is going to affect a large portion of the United States. And before we get too far into this storm, I do want to mention that yes, I am in a completely different location today. You may not believe it, but I am on a cruise ship right now, in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. I am on vacation here for the next 7 days, but I will still be providing important weather forecasts as they are needed. And I believe this one is certainly needed, as we have a dangerous winter storm developing in the United States at this very moment. So, let's get right to it. This is what the situation looks like this morning. We already have some bands of moderate snowfall across parts of Kansas, and a little bit of freezing rain over in Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, and southwest Missouri that is beginning to intensify. This is a significant concern for us throughout the morning and into the early afternoon. We are going to have this very light area of freezing drizzle and rain that will stretch from Little Rock, Arkansas, all the way to Joplin, Missouri. This means that if even a small amount of freezing rain accumulates on the roadways, it will become very slippery out there on any untreated surfaces. And I am honestly very concerned that we are going to have many of those situations throughout the day today in Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, and southern Missouri. As we approach the lunchtime hours, that area of snow is going to expand in size from central Kansas into western Illinois. Freezing rain will continue to be a threat across northern Arkansas and southern Missouri, and then we will see a great deal of heavy rain farther south toward the Gulf Coast. So, we are not expecting any sort of wintry weather for our friends in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Texas. By the late afternoon, that snow is going to continue to grow in coverage. This is mainly because we have 2 different air masses that are converging. We have one system coming over the Rocky Mountains and another one moving up from the Gulf of Mexico. All of that moisture is going to merge into one large storm system as we head into late Monday night and early Tuesday, which means that our snow is going to not just become larger in terms of covering multiple states, but it is also going to be coming down even more heavily. So, we will start to deal with heavy snowfall as we move into the evening hours on Monday across Illinois and even over near Indianapolis. Then, freezing drizzle will continue to be a threat in far western Kentucky near areas like Mayfield, as well as in southeast Missouri and northeastern Arkansas. Over near Jonesboro, we could even experience a brief period of freezing rain, which means ice accumulation is possible on untreated roadways, especially as we go into late Monday night and early Tuesday morning. That snow is going to expand in size even further. Notice all of those dark blue areas that are appearing all across the Ohio Valley. That indicates much heavier snowfall, and the snowfall rates could be as high as 2 to 3 inches per hour. This is shaping up to be a rather intense winter weather event, but the good news for those who do not want snow is that this is a very fast-moving low-pressure system. For most of you, this will only last about 4 to 6 hours. This snow is also going to be quite wet, which means it will not accumulate very quickly on the ground. However, this will certainly add to the snow totals we just received over the last couple of days, where many of you saw record-breaking snowfall amounts for the month of November. This includes areas near Fort Wayne, Indiana, and even back in central Illinois near Springfield and St. Louis. Then, during the overnight hours, we are going to see some freezing rain across parts of Kentucky, southern Ohio, and even just west of Nashville. Again, it is expected to be very, very light, but it might just be enough to make some roadways slick out there. It is not going to accumulate into something like an ice storm, for example, because of how quickly the system is moving. But what will become dangerous is that on the backside of this storm, we obviously have freezing rain, and then we have all of this moderate to heavy snowfall. So we could have a bit of black ice on Tuesday morning. This means that on top of that, we can even have some snowfall accumulation on the roads. So there could be a double-edged sword, essentially, in some locations where there is a very thin layer of ice, and also some snow, which could lead to school cancellations or at least delays on Tuesday morning. That heavy snow will then move into the northeast on Tuesday morning. This is by around 7 o'clock in the morning. We will have snow covering all of Pennsylvania, New York, and also moving into New England. Then, eventually, during the afternoon hours, we will be talking about some very heavy snowfall across parts of New York, near Albany, and even over near Worcester in Massachusetts. There could be some moderate to heavy snowfall there. You folks, however, are going to be right on the dividing line between rain and snow. Then, over in New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont, a quick-hitting nor'easter will be happening during the daytime on Tuesday. And then, by Tuesday evening, most of the snow is going to wind down. It will still be snowing across Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont all the way through about midnight, but if you are located anywhere else in the Northeast, all the snow will basically be finished by the evening hours. So, this is going to be a very quick-moving nor'easter, but it is certainly going to cause some significant problems. Now, let's talk more about how much snow and ice will come from this winter storm over the next couple of days, beginning with our snowfall accumulation across the Central Plains and the Midwest. For the most part, we are talking about a widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow. Parts of Kansas could actually see some isolated areas with nearly 5 inches of snow back in central Kansas. But generally speaking, it is going to be a pretty fast-moving system. We are not really talking about a major winter storm in Missouri, Kansas, or even western Illinois. But again, for those of you in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, a lot of this snow is just going to accumulate on top of what we already have on the ground in these areas. We are expecting at least a widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow. I do think it is realistic to see around 3 to 6 inches, and perhaps even closer to 4 to 8 inches of snow in parts of central and eastern Indiana and western and northern Ohio. So there is definitely some hope there if you were really looking forward to some snow. I do think that any farther to the south, like near Nashville, for example, I do not really see there being much snow. We could have some snow flurries on the backside of the storm during the early morning on Tuesday, but there is almost no chance that we will actually see significant snowfall accumulation in Tennessee. And then back over in the Northeast, the eastern Ohio Valley, and through the Mid-Atlantic, we are talking about some much better snowfall totals across these areas. And one area that is definitely trending upward in terms of snow compared to yesterday is Pennsylvania, as well as New York and even parts of New England, where we will likely see at least 4 to 8 inches of snow. And I do believe it is on the table that we could see some localized areas with nearly 10 to 12 inches of snow, especially if those heavier bands end up aligning correctly. That is a possibility in southern Vermont and also back near Lake Erie, where there is a possibility for some lake effect snow on top of what we are going to be seeing from the storm's snowfall. It is definitely looking likely that we could have a few areas with significant snowfall accumulation. But across the board, once again, a widespread 3 to 7 inches of snow is expected, and then there will certainly be some areas that fall into the 6 to 10 inch range. Again, isolated locations receiving over 10 inches definitely cannot be ruled out. But all in all, this is a nice winter storm to begin the season across the Northeast. And another major concern of mine with this winter storm is the threat of ice accumulation. Although this is not going to be a full-blown ice storm, there is a legitimate risk today and into early tomorrow that there will be some ice across parts of Arkansas, southern Missouri, eastern Oklahoma, western Tennessee, and back into Kentucky. And this is not going to be completely widespread, but it will be numerous enough to the point where any untreated roads could easily become slick out there. I am rather nervous that we are going to have some accidents today because of this ice across Arkansas. So, please make sure that if you have any intention of traveling over the next 24 to 48 hours, you are taking it very slowly out there, especially in Arkansas, or really anywhere that you see any pink shading on the map. Keep in mind, we can still see ice accumulation outside of this area. And again, this is not like 1/10 of an inch of ice for most of you, at least in these areas. This is only up to about 1/20th of an inch of ice. It may not sound like much, but again, it only takes a glazing of ice, which is less than 1/100th of an inch for roadways to become slick. And that could easily happen out here on untreated roads in the Ozarks. Then, back over on the East Coast, this is where there is a more legitimate chance for more significant ice accumulation. By no means is this a big ice storm either, but we are likely to at least see some scattered locations pick up around 1/10 of an inch of ice accumulation from freezing rain across areas in the Appalachian Mountains. Also, eastern Kentucky could see some ice accumulation as well, up to about 1/20th of an inch of ice. But the important point with ice accumulation like this is that we have the potential for isolated power outages, especially in the Appalachian Mountains, and travel impacts are certainly on the table. So please make sure that you are staying safe out there over the next 48 hours. Now, beyond this winter storm, we are going to have some more problems later this week, though nothing really major in terms of weather. Now, looking ahead to Wednesday, we are not expecting any significant snowfall, although there will be some light snow across the upper Midwest and into the Rocky Mountains. Our attention, however, will then turn to the Gulf Coast, as we will need to monitor that area closely for our next storm system, which is expected to develop by Thursday and Friday. This system will begin to organize over the southern plains late on Thursday, bringing with it the potential for heavy rainfall and even some isolated severe weather right underneath a large area of high pressure. That high pressure system will be building across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Then, as we move into late Friday and into Saturday, a more substantial threat of isolated severe weather will emerge directly along the Gulf Coast. We could also see some freezing rain and snow reaching as far south as North Carolina and Virginia, and perhaps making another appearance in the mid-Mississippi Valley on Friday. This is certainly a situation we will need to watch very carefully. And then by Saturday and Sunday, right around next weekend, conditions could become quite a bit more active, with the possibility of another significant band of snow across the Midwest. We could be looking at around 3 to 6 inches of snow from a system like that. As we look even further ahead into the following week, please keep in mind this is a long-range forecast. However, one of our key forecast models is indicating that our mid-December weather could be quite active across the United States. We may have a couple of major storm systems to contend with. A great deal will depend on what happens in the Pacific Ocean over the next 7 days or so. But if we see a strong atmospheric river event in the Pacific Northwest, we could experience a pattern similar to what we saw over the last 7 days, which produced 2 different winter storms. One of those storms, you may recall, moved through the Midwest, and the other one ultimately impacted the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. And it is also worth remembering that today marks the official start of meteorological winter,